All right. Welcome to the first Hammer and Logic show, the podcast brought to you by Brock for AI large code bases, where we talk with industry experts and enthusiasts about practical and sometimes impractical AI topics in the modern development lifecycle. With me today, I should say, my name is Dylan Turnbull,
Hi,
aka
Dylan.
Hammer, and with me is
Ed Fazio, also known as Logic.
Mohit
And-
Srivastava.
And Nick Moores.
All right, welcome, gentlemen. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a few minutes here just to kind of introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, what you do, and let's go ahead and start with Mohit.
Yeah, hey everyone. Thank you, Dylan, for the invite. My name is Mohit. I work as a developer advocate for Salesforce. Been doing this role for 6 years at Salesforce. Overall, 15, 16 years of experience in IT. And I have done Salesforce throughout my career, surprisingly. All born on cloud revolution, I would say.
Nice.
Cloud and SaaS platforms.
Awesome.
Amazing. Yeah, and Nick here, very similar journey, Mohit. I like to say I became part of the Workday ecosystem totally by accident. Like 11 years ago, I was like, I'm going to be an academic. And then I was like, oh no, I don't want to be an academic anymore. What do? The techie people say I'm too fuzzy, whatever that means. The fuzzy people are like, you're too technical. And then looked for literally any job posting that said developer, found one. It's in Texas? Sure. Moved to Texas. It ended up being Workday development for a Workday partner a million years ago, but fell in love with it. And now have had the chance to be at Workday for the past 7 years or so, and currently lead DevRel there. But yeah, I've absolutely loved it. And just like Mohit, this has been my community this whole time, and to get to help it grow has been quite the honor.
Awesome. Yeah, and just a little fun fact: Brock actually was born in Texas as well, where our founder is from, I believe it's Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So
That's
he's
in Texas.
Yep, Jonathan is one of the co-founders of DataStax and one of the Apache Cassandra co-chairs, or used to be. I don't know if he's still a co-chair, but he was a Apache Cassandra co-chair. And yeah, he started Brock basically because he was frustrated with the current available tools out there, and decided, well, I'm going to write my own. And here we are.
Love it.
That totally tracks.
So on that note, I was thinking maybe we could go through just to kind of set the AI tone here, and maybe have you guys talk a little bit about how AI is affecting the general day-to-day workflow for the developers at each of your organizations, and then we'll kind of jump into some of the discussion topics that we have on the slate today. So why don't we go ahead and start with you, Nick? Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing over at Workday with AI.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really been growing like gangbusters. We've had a huge focus on machine learning and AI for really the past several years. A lot of it native into the platform. You'll hear Garrett, our president, talk about this unified data set that these models are able to learn from, infer from, grow from. But really, more and more recently, we've been able to put the power of that into developers' hands. We were really, really excited to acquire and be able to work with Flowise AI, with Sana recently as well. We just went generally available with Sana for Workday yesterday or the day before, I believe.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, there's some stuff I can't spoil yet, but to make a very long story short, you will see much more at DevCon in June about how you as a developer can leverage all the goodness of Workday, all the goodness of our AI tooling to build some seriously cool outcomes.
Fantastic. That's cool. I love hearing those kind of stories. We went through a similar journey at my previous company, F5, and trying to, one of the nifty things that I'm pretty sure it's come to market at this point is the Nginx AI Gateway, which is more from the security angle, which I believe they're still producing. But with Brock, we're all focused on deep in the dev stack. So AI dev tooling all up. And how about you, Mohit? Tell us about what's going on over at Salesforce.
Yeah, same like Nick. I think we have embraced AI, and we know that AI is definitely transforming software development. Salesforce developers are not immune to that. In fact, we have been in this AI space for quite some time, starting from that predictive AI journey.
Mm,
But I think when we started towards this generative AI and now this agentic AI, we completely leaned into it, transformed our platform. Salesforce used to be for developers. It used to be a platform to enable developers to build applications, like enterprise grade applications with simple clicks and code. Now we have embraced AI, and we are sort of teaching these developers not just to use AI to build these applications. And now we are embracing the whole AI stack, and we want to simplify that for IT and developers, so they can build not only just these apps but also agents, which is becoming
mm,
like a next generation of apps, let's say,
yeah.
where it will be agentic apps.
Hmm.
And where we want to like really help these companies is to become what we call agentic enterprise. That means enterprise, they can leverage all the data that is there out in Salesforce today, leverage all the metadata that they have created. And sort of how can we enable these enterprises to take maximum advantage of AI, use with our deterministic platform that provides all these workflow capabilities, use AI along with determinism, and sort of get that reasoning capabilities of these models, along with all the insights that they have in the data, and drive workflows and actions, and sort of be one platform where they can just enable any person, whether it is a marketer or a salesperson or a service rep, like give them tools, just like we developers are now using all these coding assistant. Our
Hmm.
job is to
Hmm.
give platform for these developers, so they can build whatever is required for whatever persona, like build any sort of agents, to sort of get augmented with the AI. And we know that AI is definitely gonna accelerate all these things, but I think the human in the loop is the critical factor, and everybody needs to like learn to work with AI more than like just run automation
Yeah,
on that.
it's
Right?
coming.
The human in the loop there is so important.
Hmm.
And but we think tools are also important, so we are going into that journey now. Like you talked about, right? You have tools. Our Salesforce developers are also getting tools that our product and engineering is building, focused on building customized coding agents for developers, so they can sort of pro code, vibe code, whatever you want to call,
Hmm.
right? Assisted
Yeah.
AI engineering, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Whatever you want to call, right?
I
But
think that
yeah.
that human in the loop is a big topic. That was one of the core foundational elements at Brock was, and one of the things that drew me to Brock is this idea of the AIs are becoming one of the things that we found with with our recent power rankings is that and for those that are not in the know, we do this power ranking once a quarter where we throw a huge number of AIs at code bases that are million line plus, and then we
Mm,
run them when we base the data set off of commits that have happened in the last 6 months, just so
mhm,
it's fresh data that you cannot train on.
Mhm.
And what we found most recently is that most of the LLMs are clocking in at north of 90+%. So
mm.
they've got the syntax and the coding part of it fixed. Now it's a matter of understanding design and
Yeah.
intent and
Yes.
coming up with the ideas. And I would imagine that's a huge space both at Salesforce and at Workday. So with that,
Yeah.
do you have something, Nick, you want to say?
Oh, no, just absolutely to yes and you. I mean, you'll hear it from our leadership all the way on down. Payroll can't be 90% right. It can't be 95% right. So governance, I'm sure
Yeah,
we'll talk about
no
it,
one
but
likes
like,
getting 95% of their pay. Is that what
no,
you're telling me?
apparently. Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, I can't figure that one out.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
funny.
just couldn't agree more, essentially.
Awesome. Yeah. So with that, let me toss a question out at you, but at everyone, and let's see what everyone has to say. So when your development community, since we're all pretty much in that space, asks whether to adopt an AI coding tool, which is right in line with what we're talking about right now, or when asking them to adopt an AI coding tool, what does that conversation actually look like?
Yeah. So what I would say is so much of it comes back to like trust, and then like what's the plan for like the day after tomorrow, right? So many things are really, really handy right now. It could help me get 90% of the way there right now. And I'm not even just talking about accuracy, but like if my velocity is that much faster, what's the maintenance plan going to be like for this? Who's going to maintain this? Like, is future me going to be able to figure out what the hell I was coding months ago using this tool? It's pretty incredible to see how quickly you can get so far. I love this analogy that I saw. I don't know, of course, somewhere on LinkedIn, but just have you heard like the helicopter analogy, right? Like you
No, I
used to
haven't heard
have to
that
like
one.
climb up. Yeah, yeah. So I will paraphrase it poorly live in front of you.
Awesome.
So traditional methods, right? You're hiking up a mountain and you take these step by step by step. You have this huge plan. You have to chart out everything. You get to where you're going. The journey itself is so rewarding. There's like 7 ways you could spin this analogy of like, well, it's the journey, not the destination, right? But with some of these AI tools, you can charter a helicopter and go right to the summit. And, we could have this whole philosophical sidebar about, did you really have a journey? Like what was like,
Yeah, that's true.
but
Exactly.
another part of it is, what if the helicopter drops you off in the wrong freaking place?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Or you're wearing shorts.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So for me, it comes down to like, is this something that is going to not only help me today, but be something that like I'll be able to work with in the future? If something goes wrong, how am I going to be able to unwind this? Like, what's the commercial model for this going to look like on my team at scale? There's a lot there. I could say more. I don't know. Mohit, what do you think?
Yeah, similar thought process here. I think I would say at this point, everyone is at a different stage. Like some developers that I sort of talk to, they're very open minded and they want to adopt these tools, experiment with it. Some developers are still like not sure. So at least in our community, we see that these two extremes happening. So there are a lot of thought process here, but I think one area that I completely agree with Nick is trust, right? So I think that becomes the key here is like how do developers trust these tools at this point, right? And I think we are slowly seeing that happen. It's gonna take some time for developers to like truly embrace it. But I think now that these developers are like sort of building applications, especially with some of these coding agents now sort of improving, we see that the developers are sort of adopting. I think the challenge here is like how to work with AI is very new still, right? It's that thing like, okay, it's like computers, right? When computers came out, I'm pretty sure like some of us were like, yeah, we know how to use this machine, and went pro with it. And some of them are like, yeah, this is scary, I don't know which one, which parts of it to actually use for what. I think similar thing is happening with AI, at least in Salesforce developer community, right? People are not sure, and I think at this point what we are focused on is like how to imbibe that trust. More importantly, how to like give them tools, like for example, tools that can automatically run security analysis on top of AI generated code,
Yes. Yeah.
tools.
Unit testing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, also lay down the governance process. That means they are not just installing any MCPs, and creating security holes within
hmm
organization. um, and proper governance in place, for them to actually go and adopt this tools. Like how can we guardrail them so um, these developers can get maximum benefit out of these tools, at the same time like not lose that trust and security and all these governance aspect that we have built into this platform for years.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
would just say, especially in the IT space, right? The Workday developer ecosystem, like one way or another, we're talking about augmenting your people and money data. Like we say, people, money, and agents now, and I say, hell
Yeah.
yeah. to that, but like you can't get that wrong. Like, your IT team is not going to be crazy about you using a tool that could have destructive actions on this kind of data. So the governance is so key. I think that's a huge reason why Workday went out the gate first with the agent system of record, making sure that you had that one-stop shop for centralized governance for AI and agentic tools. And yes, we will have other ways to use this in first-party agents, third-party agents. More to come soon. But yeah, fully agree. Particularly in the not just Nick hacking away at night, but when it's to keep the lights on for your business, it's a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's interesting coming at it from a tools vendor angle. So we're in the same category as a lot of the Brock is a code harness where we work with alongside things like Claude Code and Gemini and things of that nature. And we've been the journey that I've been very keen to watch is. At first, people were about performance, like, can it do the task, right? And now and then it's become, well, can it do it fast and can it do it cheaply? And these are things that we've been keenly aware of. And now this element of trust, in one of the former podcasts, we had a colleague of mine on where they were talking about F5 created a benchmark that essentially benchmarks where our benchmark is benchmarking performance versus cost versus speed. Theirs is looking at the security angle. So they throw something like 27,000 different prompt injections at it to see if you can fool the LLM into doing bad things. And that goes right into that trust thing. And I think it was Mohit that mentioned visibility. That's another big key element. For Brock, we actually took the context out from behind the text and put it into what we call fragments, right? And so you can actually see visual objects of what your context is, which is really frustrating. So when you talk about the vibe coding element, and when you just kind of YOLO something into an LLM and you can't see what's going on, you don't think you're not looking at things like security or anything like that. That like you say, that becomes of a absolutely vital element when it comes to managing folks' money, or in Salesforce, terabytes upon terabytes upon terabytes of customer data. So, 100%. That's great.
Interesting. Trust has come up back to back in conversations that we've been having, and trust always correlated directly to the risk factors. Right. And then it always goes in from risk to the use case scenario. Right. And that's when the governance comes in. And so there's a chain of command that's starting to shape how we look at these tools and how we go to market with them, but also how we organize and actually structure our teams around that. So all of these points, it's just interesting that it's like every organization is coming to this realization at the same time.
Yeah, it's scary. And you talked about the history of when the computer first became a thing, and I was thinking about this the other day about sea changes in the industry and how we could go back into the ancient times and talk about things like the cotton gin and things of that nature. I was watching a presentation yesterday by someone from that we're going to be doing some stuff called Arc of AI, and he was giving a talk. And it was all around this adoption cycle. And trust was a big deal. And the one of the other angles that I think was very interesting is we've been through these cycles on maybe a less, I would say, breakneck time scale. AI is moving fast because you think about computers. Yeah, we had the user. There was a time when I was told in my CIS 130 class that no self-respecting network admin would ever use a user interface. And fast forward, and because I was angry we weren't spending more time on Windows NT. And then you fast forward, and I had a conversation with a customer where I was like really excited about VMs, right, and VDKs and things like that, and they're like, oh well, no network admin is ever going to run their entire network infrastructure inside of a VM, and I'm like, Really? And then fast forward to not less than 8 years ago, and everybody was like, I don't understand Kubernetes. Why do we need more layers? It's like, well, you try to deliver an application at the speed we deliver them today without something like Kubernetes in the loop. So yeah, and then along comes AI, and it's moving, it's moving crazy fast by comparison to any of those tech stacks. But same dance, in my opinion, just as you'd reference, Mohit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about human in the loop, but we're talking about the speed and the acceleration of these tools. You guys heard of the human on the loop?
I have heard. And out of the loop too.
Yeah.
So on the loop is one thing. I saw people saying, there will be out of the loop. That means, like AI is just taking everything.
There have been days where I feel like human out of the loop too. So
get in line.
Yeah, I was out of the loop. I don't my head is out now at this point. Like I don't get it at this point. Like how we'll be out of the loop. But
well, the loop is starting to go around some people's necks. So
oh man.
All right. Why don't you take us into the next question, Ed?
Yeah, sure. So we're talking about, lowering barriers using these tools. Obviously, we've seen acceleration and the fact that we often talk about the democratization of development and developer teams. So let's talk about barriers.
My favorite term.
When you're structuring your teams, do those barriers actually necessitate a change in how you're onboarding your developers, how you're actually applying your technical resources? And maybe we'll start with Nick. Just give you a perspective on that.
Yeah. So certainly the barrier is lower. I'm trying to get the analogy right. So the floor is higher. This, one of those kind of situations. But yeah, the barrier to entry has never been lower. From my enterprise vantage point, it's always super interesting because to build, it's a feature. I promise it's a feature. To build something really cool on the Workday Build platform, you kind of got to know enough of Workday to know what the hell are you plugging into. I remember being an integration consultant. I was a recovering consultant, but years ago, if you wanted to integrate with a platform, you got to know what's the data structure like. What am I mapping to? Having to explain to salespeople, here's the API spec. Here's the fields I got to work with, man. This is, at the end of the day, it's got to fit in this shape of whole. So where I'm going with this is that the barrier to entry is lower. And I still think it is, of course, critical for new developers to have a quick win, a quick sense of progress, to see that they're going to be supported in your community. There's rich documentation. It's easy to grok. But then, you can't just drop them off a cliff after that. And I think that that's what's kind of perilous about this moment, is you can get somewhere so fast, but what's the next step after that? What's the jump like? Someone told me a long time ago, you can only learn what you almost know. Otherwise, you're just throwing crap at your brain. So if we're not careful, we will totally do that to our developers. We'll give them way too much too fast. And I think a lot of the folks that are going to be coming in to become Workday developers, and they will use our awesome AI and agentic tools to build something really fast. But we care very deeply over here, and I'm sure Salesforce absolutely is excellent at this, as always. What's that next step for them? Building that ladder without any broken rungs. So I guess that's what keeps me up at night. How do we do that in an excellent fashion?
Yeah.
I agree with Nick. One of the challenging things here is for new developers. If you think about, I think about my journey as a developer when I started with Salesforce and what that journey would look like if I were to start now, right? Because if you remember, I graduated doing electronics and communication. Did not have computer science rich background, although background of hardware and analog circuits and things like that, right? And started with directly coding on Salesforce platform, which basically abstracted away a lot of things for me. For example, all the cloud things that you're talking about, Kubernetes and stuff. I mean, at that point, I would say we were not that advanced. This is 2010, 2011 timeframe. It was all cloud But cloud was abstracted for me. Like I didn't know. I only knew, okay, this is Apex, which basically is our own created programming language, which behind the scenes gets converted into Java and compiles itself into bytecode. Um, but I didn't have all that basics, but still kind of made through my way. But I think about the journey, right? It was also going back and sort of looking at it, and there was always that curiosity element of like, okay, how is this thing working behind the scenes? Like, what are the components that are involved? Even though I was programming in a much abstraction layer, right? I still had to go and look back all the stack and everything. Think about developers now, they are more abstracted. It's the abstraction level for them is going to be like the opaque layer, right, that they have to traverse back, like Nick was talking about. You drop them off to the cliff, but then they will be productive. The AI is going to be cooking all the UI for them, all the backend logic, by writing prompts, and they'll see bunch of blocks of code. And I think at that point, all they will be doing is sort of understanding at very high level, like not that detailed level aspects of it. Think about very similar to machine code, right? I mean, if everything is abstracted today, right, if you're writing Java, you don't think about these bytes, do you? You don't think about these bytes. Do you go back to the hardware level signals or gate level logic? I don't think so, right? I mean, it's all abstracted, even assembly and all, it's abstracted for us. So I think some parts will hold really true there, like, yes, they will be able to like just understand at high level the building blocks and trust the system like we trust it. Only caveat today is the AI is not perfect, and that makes all the difference. Is like, if you think about compiler is perfect. Like you give it, there is certain rules and logic that is there. It's going to compile into proper code. That assembly code that it produces, right, it's going to run, like it's going to run on that hardware. You at least know that. But for developers like who will be using AI, at least at this point the technology has not gone that we can completely trust on that. Now I know that the model companies are going to be working, there will be all sorts of prompting and workarounds and all these things, that's going to happen. And who can predict the future, right? We don't know what the future would look like. But for them, like let's come back to that point of like, for them, what would that look like, right? If people are curious and agentic and critical thinkers, they will move back and learn everything in that process. May not be any may not be, and they will have LLMs to teach. It is another thing, like that is there with them, that LLM. We didn't have LLM. I didn't have LLM to learn, Salesforce thing. I'm learning that on my job, reading through the forums, reading through all these Stack Exchange and Stack Overflow and all these things. They will have only LLMs to read and learn from. And again, the challenge comes back because LLMs are not perfect. So it's like, the things that they're going to give back is going to be perfect. You don't know that, right? How much accuracy will there be? You don't know that. And that's why I think, all the resources that we have today, especially, our role as a developer advocates, who kind of own this or put that ownership title there, have a deep role here to play, like, to create content that can be trusted, simplified, also in a format that not only like next generation developers understand, but also the next generation LLMs are able to consume and sort of give responses and personalize it to the developers using those content. So that's why I think there is a bigger role. But to answer your question, right, like, these, there will be definitely challenges for these developers. And I think as a developer advocate, as long as we promote critical thinking and them how to critically think, evaluate things, and judge. And these are the new type of skills they will have to develop apart from just using these AI tools. I think that's going to be a journey.
Yeah, I mean, I that element of critical thinking is such a big deal, from at least from the nuts and bolts perspective that we're used to. So it's one thing to just send in a prompt and get code back out. but I've seen I went through the early days of Copilot or in and what the LMs could do circa GPT-4 days.
Yeah.
And some of
Cretaceous
those,
period.
oh man, I mean, producing just in simple development space, something like TypeScript or a Node backend, it would just produce these giant monolithic files. No idea of how to break the classes. You had to go in, and if you didn't know, hey, this is irregular, to have like a 8,000 line TypeScript file with 600 classes in it. that's not a good way to design it. So I think I do think that is incumbent on the developer advocate space to say, hey, not only are we going to show you some of the best ways to work with these LLMs, how to find the right LLMs to work with inside with the work you're doing, because what we found is that there's a right LLM for the right job. So for instance, we might have one for really easy tasks that is fast and cheap and intelligent enough, something like Flash 3, but if you need something that has some really heavy crunching to do, that has a big problem to solve, you might pick something like Opus, which is roughly 4 to 6%. You're talking about a single coding task being $15 versus being $215. And just by changing between those two LLMs. But on top of that, going back through and looking at dev principles like KISS and some of the other 4 or 5 letter acronyms that we all grew up with, just to refine what you've done is a good step in the process. Like, so here's a workflow idea of, don't just write the code and send it off to GitHub and then wait for the PR to be approved while your seniors are getting destroyed by code reviews in the millions. So take the time to go through and ask what we had to do was consult documentation, which is going to lead me into our next question. But what you can now do, and this is, I think, where we can add value as dev advocates, is you have like a pair part, like a something with infinite knowledge that not necessarily won't always get it right, but you can at least ask the question. And get something back out of even as something as simple as a chat-based LLM. So that, which leads me to the next question here. So onboarding for like new projects inside your respective ecosystems, for new developers in those platform ecosystems, does the AI assisted inquiry show up in your workflows these days? And would you say that is a plus, an add, or is it better or worse than the original documentation that you guys have available?
Nick, okay, I can take this.
I went first last couple times. Sorry.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, perfectly fair. Yeah, so I think when onboarding these developers, what I've seen is always like the authentic documentation shines. There is no question about that, right? Like, there is something in AI that it misses certain aspects of it. There are both sides to it. Okay, sometimes the AI is going to be very helpful because you can ask questions, as you said, you can ask questions in a way your brain sort of understands. That's something really nice thing about AI. But what I've seen is always like, it sometimes misses some points here and there that are very critical. And that's why I think us producing documents and the team's documentation team producing the documents authentically, using their own human brain, building that connection for other human developers in this case, is very, very critical, because we've learned this, how humans sort of understand certain aspects, and we know how to structure these documents so developers can find it and use it. So I think there is going to be always the human done work will have much more value compared to something that AI produces. But that doesn't mean that whatever AI produces is also going to be useless, right? And there is one area where human produced document can then also act as a document that guides these LLMs and these agents. So we are seeing all sorts of things. I think it comes down to the personal preference of what to use. The way I have seen sort of new developers sort of working through is like take all these blog posts, and the way I'm doing today myself is, if I need to understand some things that I don't know about, use tools like Notebook LLM from Google. I think it's an amazing tool. You can bring in all the documents, like the official documentation from the official writers, some community contributed blog posts, maybe some videos from YouTube, like put them all together and then let it like synthesize or create mind maps. I think that's been helpful to create mind maps. And from there, question it, like question everything that is coming to your mind with the LLM, right? So this is one of the workflows that's working really nicely for me. And then drill down from there, if I have to like understand more deeper, then from there, like pinpoint that exact piece of the document and go read from there till sort of build the knowledge within one's own brain, right? So you understand certain aspects really well to be able to like work with the AI. And this thing is not going to change with AI. Let's be honest about it. Like, I have seen developers sort of working on code without like understanding it, and I think that is the dangerous territory to go get into. And we all as a developers can attest to it, right? It's like, okay, you can build everything perfectly, but the moment like that one bug shows up and the AI like starts struggling and going in the loop and starts guiding you in a wrong way, and if you don't have that skill sets, you're going to judge the AI wrongly, and the AI is going to take you in a different directions altogether, wasting bunch of tokens, wasting bunch of your own time as well. And better it is to build the skill yourself first, so you can guide the AI in a right way.
I mean, that idea of being careful of how AI is trained to be very positively reinforcing. I know that they're starting to move away from that, but I think all of us have lived through the early days of AI where it was just like, absolutely, I can do that for you, and then it fails miserably. And he's like, oh, you're right, it is wrong. I can absolutely fix it this time. So,
and you spend your whole day on that.
Exactly. How about with you, Nick?
Yeah. Oh man, so many things I'd love to double click on. I feel like this marries the last question too. The documentation as a foundation is like so important. It really is like a contract of what we're saying our tools and our system and our platform does. And I'm imagining like the counterfactual of, well, shit. Like, what if we just got rid of the docs and we just had the conversational interface? But then you have nothing to fall back on, like absolutely nothing to fall back on. One of my friends in product marketing talks about developers as being your most skeptical friends. And I do think about that a lot and think like, you need to have like a release valve for that skepticism. Like, if I'm not sure, or just my spidey sense is saying, I don't know about this answer, you need to have somewhere to be able to validate it, to verify it. And the same is true for like a developer's curiosity. Like, that is ultimately, I think, how you make that onboarding seamless, is like, give them enough so that if they're curious about the next step, they can keep climbing. Because if you drop them off with too big of a gap and they want to know how to get to the next step, but you don't give them any room between here and there to get there, they're just going to be super frustrated. If you're trying to get them activated as part of your ecosystem, they're not going to want to. And if they're working on a mission critical project, like that's a huge problem. That could be a support problem, like, or worse. So yeah, and when we were talking about like how to think about these cases where AI is helping you, but you got to think through things critically. I build a lot of things in the house or do like handyman stuff, and I think a lot about how even if you're using a power tool to do something, you're using hand tool to do something. Like, there's so many levels of granularity, kind of like the bytecode example. But But if you don't know the problem you're solving and you don't know the outcome you want, and you don't have like a firm grasp of like core like architectural principles, like that's where things fall apart. Where like if you don't, then if something's wrong, you really don't know how to fix it. And you raised a good point, Mohit, of like, hey, clicking the help me button, while it's like, yes, I can do that. Like that's expensive. That becomes really, really expensive, especially depending on which model you're using. So just something that I've been thinking about a lot is like, as DevRel, if it gets this much easier to start that building journey, like how do we help people clock good architecture where they can see like, this just fits so cleanly, the thing that you've built, and it's going to be stable and resilient. I think that that's like more important than ever. Like, how do we help people build those intuitions now that some of the like building part is becoming easier? How do we build their vision to be able to see when something's not quite right?
Yeah. I think for me, the things that were foundational in the early days, aside from just having a mentor in general, I think everybody that was a big deal, were like a soft landing zone. Things like, can I fail and recover quickly? Or is there some form of reference where, like you touched on this about the expense of some of this, or just being able to have legitimate data to say these LLMs are more in tune with doing this type of work, and these are for these types of work, and in some cases, having the ability to have that stuff just kind of change on the fly. And you don't always want to be pushing something into Opus because you're gonna burn through your wallet really quick. And I think that for me, just in general, I mean, there's a lot of, because this is such a new space, and I'm in this area of AI dev tools are like literally bleeding edge. They're on over the cliff and already falling towards the uncanny valley, and and so for me, I like having a safety net, for one thing. So having a sandbox to play with, and then having some form of senior to run things by is something I think that some of, especially in your areas, I would assume that your community will look to you for that guidance. And a lot of that, since we're a one-to-many type of scenario, in a lot of cases, documentation is a great place for that to land at the end of the day. Ed, I think we're going to skip the next question because we kind of already touched on the trust. The trust question. We talked about inadvertently talked about that right in the beginning. So rather than rehash that, let's jump straight to the next one there. And this is actually quite topical given where we're heading with this conversation. So let's jump to that.
Yeah. So this is about the community growth and the support strategies thereof. We talked about the barriers being lowered. And let's talk about the concept of the community management. This dovetails into that whole, peers helping peers come up into the development communities, preserving tacit knowledge. But how do you actually do that? Is it more of a programmatic thing that's endorsed, or is it a company culture thing or a team culture thing that says we will support the onboarding of the knowledge transfer? And I don't think there is a standard yet. So I'm really curious how your organizations are approaching this at scale. And Nick, we're going to let you go first because Mohit did the last first. So we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah. And do you mean like with something with AI in particular, or just in general?
Yeah, in general. So AI is obviously the backbone of how we're transferring knowledge in relation to using these AI tools. But how do you actually scale and support a community? Does it become easier because we have tools that help do this, or is it just a different way? Because it used to be you'd peer up, right? So
I really love what y'all were saying about mentorship, because it really just got my brain. Maybe it's almost Friday for future listeners wondering what time it was, and it's got me thinking about like, I really love looking at AI as like a partner to me that's like helping poke holes or helping me riff on something. But like, is it a mentor? Like, that really stuck with me. Like, I'm really, really thankful that I have people that taught me how to build Workday integrations, Workday extend apps. And even though that has gotten much easier, surprise, like I still look to them and their wisdom, essentially, and their experience. I think that there's something about the types of folks that gravitate towards developer communities where they want to have achievement, they want recognition. I think that you kind of ignore that at your peril. And also, like a much more positive spin is like they want to help. So like giving people the ability to help others on up is always a fabulous idea. I do think DevRel is like pretty much almost singularly important with onboarding. I really do think the buck stops there. So I will say that, but we at Workday, we empower our community as much as we can to help with that, because ultimately, if we're like welcoming you super quickly into a party that's dead, like who wants that? Like we want you to have a nice, wonderful experience coming into the community, and for the community itself to be thriving. It's not just like the DevRel show is usually what I say. Like you got to be here for the other people. And those are the people you're going to be looking to as peers, as mentors, as guides. That's like the super fast answer. But I do think, yes, AI makes some of that interesting. I view it personally more as like a layer to fold in, but the people part, I think it's just kind of, there's something about how we're wired that we really should honor.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It flows into that greater concept of the change management portion, the people component of that. Mohit, your commentary on what Nick was
I agree. I think it is culture is very important actually. AI, AI doesn't have taste or emotions or empathy like we humans have, and it's very important to like sort of understand that. So for our communities, it's same thing. I think it's important that we share things, and this is a new world. Everybody is navigating to this territory where it's all new. There is a lot of learnings to be had, and I think the only way we are going to learn is learn from each other, right? So rely on each other. Definitely same comments like, yeah, we call our community trailblazer community, and we are all trailblazers, trailblazing together. So I would say like the culture is the most important thing here. And we shouldn't forget the human aspect of it. It's AI is there to assist, but there are parts of how we are wired, as Nick said, right? Like there are parts of these things that only humans can understand and sort of connect with each other. So AI shouldn't be used as a tool to disconnect. It's more as a tool to like bring everyone together. And community is one good way to like stay together here. Because look, any transformation that you want to happen, it cannot happen without adoption, right? And the only way that adoption is going to happen is by culture and by community. So if community of people come together and they see and build policies, I think it's going to be much more adopted and long lasted than than just AI doing crazy stuff, basically.
Yeah. I could not agree with you both more on this one. Recently, they asked me to do like a kind of introduction thing that went up on Facebook, or not Facebook, LinkedIn. Yes, today I think. And I was trying to think, what are the things that do motivate me, and top of mind for me has always been the democratization of the development experience. I was introduced to that term back in 2008, and ever since then it's been a foundational element. And second always for me is community, and third is community. I've been, I was solely responsible at Nginx for doing community management there as well. And I think that AI is a good way to augment that. But I would also add that as DevRels, supporting each other is part of the reason I really wanted to get into doing these podcasts, doing these live shows, is to hear what other DevRels are doing, and especially inside the AI development space, and so it's. To me, I think that keeping that human with the humans is a pretty important item. So 100%.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're getting pretty close to the top of the hour, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up here. So I know we've all got a lot of things going on in our respective worlds. So I'm going to start off with, I think, Mohith, and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world, where people can find you, what interesting things you guys got coming up at Salesforce.
Yeah, for all those listeners, we at Salesforce are working on an exciting conference that's going to happen next month. Um, at We call the conference TDX, um, and basically TDX is a short form for Trailblazer Developer Experience. And this conference is going to be happening in San Francisco, where our corporate office is, and we are expecting a lot of developers. And yeah, as usual, we are thinking through, what tools should we give to developers. What is the strategy, and how do we motivate developers, and sort of um, help them understand, what AI can bring to the table, what are the things that they need to think about, what are the areas that they need to focus, and basically help them how to be successful with Salesforce. So that's what we are working on, and continuing, here, sort of building a lot of great products, where these products are meant for augmentation. And I just want to iterate that, we are not building siloed AI here. It's all AI that humans can trust, and sort of the AI that can be guardrailed. That's most important to us. Like, how do we give AI that you can, like, trust? And we want these developers to, sort of enable their enterprises, their companies, to become agentic, basically drive this new agentic revolution that we think is gonna be the future. Like, how do they leverage, AI to their maximum efficiency, and become really efficient, and provide that customer experience, that any company, or any customer from any company looks for. So we are all about customer experience here, and our job here at Salesforce for our developers is to provide them everything, so they can solve these hard business problems.
Excellent.
I love
Nick, where can folks find you? What do you got going on? What's coming up with Workday in the near future?
Yeah. Oh man, so much stuff. And first off, Mohit, I got to go to Trailblazer DX in 2022. It is a
Oh.
trip. If you have not been yet, you should go. Absolutely wild, super fun. I learned so much. I think
Wow.
it's an incredible conference. Yeah. So we have our own version of a developer conference that I'm damn proud of. It's called Workday DevCon. It is turning 5 this year. It's going to be
Wow.
in Las Vegas,
Congrats.
Nevada.
Wow.
Thank you. Big deal. We got to add something to the events calendar, and keep it going, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Fastest growing conference in Workday history. And it's going to be June 1st through 4th, all about building agents, building career, building community. The Workday developer community has been doubling year over year over year. It's one of those things where, like, that exponential, it escalates quickly, right? So we're at this really, really exciting part of the curve. So if you are at all interested in what the heck is Nick talking about, he's talking about, like, building agentic apps with Workday. Like, Workday, don't I, like, do my timesheet there, like, every once in a while? Like, over 75 million people use Workday around the globe. You make their experience a little bit better for 75 million people. That's a really good outcome.
Yeah. Have it write my
So-
MBOs for me, please.
Yeah, exactly. No, seriously. And we just released a feature that makes that a lot easier, actually.
That's awesome.
True story. But it is what I would say is a very tight-knit and intimate community, extremely welcoming. It's a great time to jump fully into it. We are opening up our developer program more and more this year. To put it super briefly, like I said, it's been super closed for a long time. Pros and cons to that, and it is slowly opening up. Now is the time to jump in. We would love to see you at DevCon in person. You can hack with us. We got a learner track, so that you can just hang out. You don't have to compete. More people are signing up for that right now. I absolutely love it. Come see me, come see our developer MVPs. It is a great time. You can always register digitally for free as well. So highly encourage you to do that if you're at all curious. This is a wonderful community, and I think you should check it out.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been a fantastic talk, gents. And Ed, Mohit, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. And for everyone that's listening in, thanks for listening to the Hammer and Logic Show, the podcast brought to you by Brock AI for large code bases. If you're interested in checking out Brock, head on over to brock.ai. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you.